Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another late week episode of CO Sports Talk. We are back and ready to talk and fire about some amazing sports weekend we're about to have. October really is the best month when it comes to sports because we got college football, NFL, of course, obviously, along with high school. And then we got NBA just starting up, NHL just starting up, MLB winding down. So we have every single sport going on. And this year it's even extra special because we have the World Cup coming up. So we really have every single sport in the whole wide world going on. October is the best sports month. So let's get right back into it, boys. And let's start it off with our predictions of college football. It's an insane week we got right here. And let's talk about this week. A lot of undefeated teams going at it. But yeah, let's get into it all.
Let's do it.
College football predictions. Let's get right into it. It's the first time ever in the history of college football that there's 3 total games of 5-0 or betters versus 5-0 and betters all in one weekend. Let's get right into it with we're going to start with some worst games and get into the biggies of the week. Start with Mississippi State versus Kentucky, another ranked number 22 as you see on the screen versus number 16. Mississippi State 5-1 versus 4-2. The line is Mississippi State favored by -4. First, I will go. I like this game to be taken by Mississippi State. I know this game's in Kentucky, and it is going to come down if Will Levis is playing, but an underrated player in the CFB this year is Will Rogers from Mississippi State. They've been a very talented team so far. Their only loss this year was LSU, and it's hard to win at LSU no matter what. So I like Mississippi State to win this game and shock Kentucky in Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky's kind of spiraled a little bit recently. Part of that being Will Levis's injury, but he is set to play, I have heard, this week. So that will change things a bit. However, I just love the way these Bulldogs are playing right now. Definitely a shock for me. I didn't think Mississippi State would be good at all this year. But I also am in agreement here. I like Mississippi State this weekend.
Will?
Yeah, I also like Mississippi State. I think Levis is I think he's good, but everyone was saying he was going to be like the first overall pick. And he's kind of lost some of that steam. But Mississippi State is legit, and they picked up some good wins. And it'll just be an SEC middle of the pack fight. And I feel like they're pretty even, but Mississippi State should win that one.
Battle of the Will QBs.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Will Rogers is pretty legit.
We got another game coming up here. Number 4 in the country. Some say fraud, some say they aren't. I got Clemson taking on Florida State in Tallahassee this weekend. The line is Clemson favored by -3.5. Some say that could be a trap line. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm going with the opposite here. I got the Florida State Seminoles to hand Clemson their first loss of the year. It's hard to win in Florida State, but especially at a primetime game of 4:30 here, 7:30 in the East Coast in Tallahassee. It's going to be a really good atmosphere for an actually good Florida State team for the first time in a while. They're 4-2. I like the Florida State Seminoles to beat TJ.
I've got Clemson here. They don't have that many. They beat Wake Forest. They beat NC State. Florida State will be a good test, a non-ranked opponent. They beat they're 2-0 against top 25 teams this year.
Yeah.
I do like Clemson in this game. I think it will be pretty close. I understand why the line is as small as it is. So -3.5. I'd still take that line though. It could be a trap, but I do like Clemson in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that line is a little sus, and I feel like Vegas knows their stuff.
They always know, man.
I don't know. Clemson struggled at first with Boston College, but then they pulled away in the fourth quarter.
That's true.
And I feel like it could be a game like that, and maybe the score won't tell how the game actually went. I think Jordan Travis is pretty legit, but Clemson should win that one.
Battle of the West Coast. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said, or really even 7 weeks ago before the season start, I would have thought this is the best Pac-12 game we're going to have all year. USC taking on Utah. USC has lived up to the hype. They're 6-0. Lincoln Riley definitely won that Oklahoma divorce. It's looking like, unfortunately. Yeah. But Utah, not as good as we thought. They're 4-2. They fell to UCLA last week. But this game's at Utah. This has been a tough one that I've been, really struggling over who I'm going to pick all week. Utah is favored by -3.5, which some would be like, what? They're 4-2, but playing at Utah is so brutal. They have a really insane fans. They're undefeated at home. I'm actually going to go with the Utes to give USC their first loss. If USC can go into Salt Lake City and beat Utah, they are legit, and they have a chance to really make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, I do want to say Utah, but USC, like, I feel like people aren't giving them enough credit. They've looked really good in most of their games. Only game they didn't really look that good was that Oregon State game at Oregon State.
Yeah.
But they took care of a pretty good Washington State team. You know, they beat Stanford. I guess that's not a big accomplishment. And yeah, I guess it's competition is really a problem for USC. You can't really get a good gauge on them so far. I mean, the best team they played was probably Washington State. So I think it's hard to tell, and I think this will be a big test for them. But I will trust USC and the playmakers they have, like Jordan Addison. But I'm excited for that Jordan Addison Clark Phillips matchup on the outside. Two first rounders going at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason Utah should be favored by 3.5 unless they know something. And although I think SC is probably the better team, I feel like Utah might just win this one because of where Vegas is putting the line at. And I mean, the Pac-12 just beats up on each other. And
True.
SC hasn't had their fraud game yet. So I think this could be this week.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really solid game there. As we just mentioned, Utah USC. I'm really looking forward to that one. And moving on to one more big game here. We got Notre Dame taking on Stanford. And I know, obviously, this is probably Notre Dame heavy. So we're going to pick spread. Notre Dame minus 17. It's in South Bend. Stanford Cardinals struggled a little, but they had a solid game just till the end last game. I'm going to go with Stanford covering the plus 17 in South Bend. I think Tanner McKee is going to have a solid game. They have a really solid running back, Casey Filkins. I've met the guy, good guy. And I think maybe Notre Dame will struggle a little. I like them winning by 14.
Yeah, Notre Dame hasn't won a game that by that much this year. Obviously, he's the worst opponent they have played, but I also like Stanford covering this. Stanford's played a lot of they've played well offensively. It's just the defense gives up a lot of points, so that could be a concern. I do think, obviously, I think Notre Dame takes this one outright, but I do like Stanford to cover. And Notre Dame has looked better as of recently. They lost their first two and then won 3 straight with nice wins over a pretty good Cal team. Casey can attest to that. A much improved Cal team from years past. UNC, who's always good, always pretty good recently, and BYU, who I thought was very legit and didn't really turn out to be that way, but they're still a good football team. So I do like Notre Dame, but I like Stanford to cover because I think Stanford also kind of historically plays Notre Dame well, and it's always just a good game when these two face off.
Yeah, I'm with you on just like always a competitive, like historic rivalry in sports, game respect game type of match.
Yeah.
And I feel like Stanford has struggled to like really come out strong in games and like take a lead. And I feel like they're always just kind of fighting back in the fourth quarter. But yeah, they probably should cover that spread.
Yeah, and before we get into the big three, quick one here, Kansas, Oklahoma. I actually like the Sooners to win this game. I know that sounds like a shock. Kansas is 5-1, obviously, with an injured QB. Oklahoma's 3-3, but with Dylan Gabriel back, Vegas knows what they're talking about. And OU is favored by minus 3.5, minus 9 here. An absolute shocker spread. Vegas knows, man. I'm going with Oklahoma to win this game outright.
It's minus 9.
Yeah. Kansas wasn't that bad.
I think Kansas wins outright. The Sooners been looking atrocious. I get they have Dylan Gabriel back, but that defense. I mean, it depends if there's all these reports about Jalen Daniels and how he's gonna miss the rest of the season, and then he tweets that that's news to him. So there's just I don't know what's going on there. Is he ruled out for the game officially or?
Yeah, he's out for this game, but like
likely to be without Jalen Daniels. So most likely he's listed as doubtful pretty much. So that does make it a little more interesting actually. So I'm gonna flip. I think Oklahoma wins because of the absence of Jalen Daniels, but I do think Kansas covers.
Yeah. I mean, Kansas 5-1. They would be disappointed in you right now, Oliver.
Yeah.
That's fair. I think Jalen Daniels is a hell of a player.
Yeah, I think Daniel's pretty good. Their backup wasn't that bad. He had some nice plays in the second half, and TCU is a really legit team. I think, I mean, Oklahoma being favored by 9 is crazy against a ranked Kansas who has a lot of other talented players. And I feel like I'm gonna go with Kansas, but I feel
Yeah,
like
I'm flipping back to Kansas
I
football.
think either way though, it's gonna be a blowout because I think it's either Kansas is unmotivated and gets smoked by Oklahoma, or Oklahoma's just scrapping the season and just bad mentality and gets blown out. I think it'll be a blowout either way.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then we don't want to go through this one fast, but Ole Miss is 6-0. We should shout them out. Shout out Jackson Dart. Just raise your hand if you think they'll beat Auburn. All right. It's a 3-0 there. Boom. And now let's get into the big four. We have NC State, number 15 in the country, versus Syracuse, number 18 in the country. Great game. 5-0 versus 5-1 NC State, whose only loss is at Clemson. Who do y'all got? I'll start. Syracuse is favored -3.5 here. They're undefeated. It's in the Carrier Dome, but I like North Carolina State to go up there and beat Syracuse as the underdog. I think this NC State team is really solid. They played Clemson well, and I think they're a bit more battle-tested than this Sean Tucker-led Syracuse team. And Devin Leary's a good QB, so I like NC State.
Yeah, I'm cool with any outcome of this game as long as Sean Tucker is pleased with his performance. And so I think I'm in agreement with you, Casey. I think NC State wins this. I do like the Syracuse team a lot, especially a guy like Sean Tucker, who just workhorse back there. I think it's gonna be a really good game. I've been going back and forth on this in my head, but at the end of the day, going into this year, I thought NC State was a bit overrated. I was like, what did they do to warrant them being rated so high? But they proved they're a good football team. Only lost to Clemson by 10. So I like them beating Syracuse, but I can see it going both ways.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Syracuse, but I'm siding with Vegas on this one. I think there's no reason that Syracuse should be favored by 3.5, even with the whole home field advantage. I feel like NC State played Clemson really well in game day, which was probably the best. It's one of the best game days there's been all year, and one of the highest ranked matchups. And I remember watching NC State versus East Carolina though, and they just I think that was their first or second game of the season, and they came out kind of slow. And I feel like Sean Tucker, I don't know how pleased he's been all year. I mean, last week they had a blowout, but I don't know if he was. I think he's hungry for a pleasing performance, and he's due.
Yeah. Our first undefeated matchup here. Oklahoma State visiting TCU, 5-0 versus 5-0. This one is set to be a really solid game, and we got Spencer Sanders versus Max Duggan. It's in TCU. Man, this has been a tough one for me all week as well. I mean, TCU has looked good, but I'm gonna go with Spencer Sanders and Oklahoma State to get it done. Although TCU is favored by 4, I like Oklahoma State to get it done. So I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I'm going with TCU. If you look at the schedule, frankly, who has Oklahoma State beat?
They beat Baylor at Baylor, which was
Baylor's
impressive.
3-3, and
Baylor
Baylor's
lost to
mid.
West Virginia tonight also.
They're so mid. And they beat
Arizona State. Yes,
Arizona State. They beat Texas Tech. That was probably the one good win. I mean, Baylor was a good win at the time, but looking back at it, not really. Whereas TCU, I've been more impressed. Obviously, they had that big win over Oklahoma, and then just beat ranked Kansas. So I'm taking TCU. I think they're more battle tested, and I think it's gonna be a great game though. Two teams that could win the Big 12 for sure. But I do like TCU in this game.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State. I think Spencer Sanders is the truth. I mean, I like TCU. This is the biggest game of the year for both teams to prove their worth. And I mean, TCU versus Kansas was a good game. People are saying the Oklahoma win, they're frauds. But I like Spencer Sanders. But I don't know. This is my favorite game of the week.
It's a really good game. Big 12 matchup. Shout out our boy Will Irvin. He's going to be in attendance at this game. And let's move on to the second biggest game of the week. And normally, by the way, that would be the game day. That's why this is such an insane week here. But moving on, we got Penn State 5-0 versus Michigan 6-0. 9 a.m. It's Fox Big Noon kickoff. Sean Clifford versus J.J. McCarthy. It's the Maze out in Ann Arbor. I got to go with Michigan for that reason. They got one of the best running backs in the country in Blake Corum. and a really solid receiver as well. They have in Ronnie Bell. I'm gonna go with the Michigan Wolverines.
Give me the Nittany Lions all day, man.
Wow.
It's finally time for Michigan to play some real comp.
Woo.
They're gonna get a slap in the face, dude. I mean, playing Hawaii, playing Colorado State, it ain't gonna cut it anymore, man.
UConn, they literally played like 5 of the
Playing UConn, yeah, exactly, bro. This is getting ridiculous, and I'm finally this team is overrated, and I'm excited for the Nittany Lions to finally put it to them, man.
Yeah, I'm with
Wow.
you. I think this is a running back matchup with 5'8" Blake and Nick Singleton, who's one of the best freshmen in the nation. And I feel like yeah, Michigan has just played some shitty teams. Like they were tied 10-10 with Indiana at half last week. Like it's time that they're playing a real team. And I think yeah, I think Penn State is gonna hand it to them.
Do we think that Sean Clifford's going to be able to, stay good under pressure? Because sometimes he chokes under the big games, under the lights.
I don't know. I feel like this game's probably at 9 in the morning. It's not under the lights. It's that nice, like
Obviously,
daytime. It's that daytime filled crowd. They're probably doing like, yeah, I don't know. It'll be a good game. I think he'll do great.
yeah, it was a big good game now.
All right, our last game, the big of them all, the biggest game that Tennessee has hosted. And I don't know, man, maybe 5 years since that Florida game. 12:30, 3:30 Eastern on Saturday, 6-0 Alabama comes to Knoxville to take on 5-0 Tennessee, number 3 in the country, versus number 6 in the country. Is Bryce Young playing or not? Hendon Hooker has been solid for the Tennessee Volunteers. Myself, I'm going to go with Tennessee to upset Alabama. I mean, this reminds me of that 2019 game versus LSU. I really do think this Tennessee team's legit. I mean, Hendon Hooker's 24 years old, still playing college football. He's a beast, playing really well, and especially with the Alabama struggles we saw last week versus Arkansas. And the question marks at QB, will Jalen Milroe be the quarterback of Bryce Young? I'm going to go with Tennessee. However, we'll say for Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs is an absolute beast of a running back.
Yeah, he is. Rocky Top is gonna be rocking. I like Tennessee as well. I feel like it's becoming a very common upset, which kind of scares me because usually those don't really happen. But yeah, I like the way this is all formulating. I think this is Tennessee's year to finally beat Bama again. I mean, they haven't beat Bama in a very long time. Yeah. So I like Tennessee. They're at home. This is the best team Alabama's played thus far, and I'm excited. I mean, it's gonna be a great game. Just excited to watch it.
And Bryce Young apparently is on a pitch count, as they're calling it, and he practiced a little bit, but very limited. It's going to come down to be able to see if he's going to be able to throw the ball. So we'll see if Young plays. I mean, I don't know how good that sounds.
Yeah, but honestly, like any dude that Alabama puts out there is going to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hendon Hooker is probably a top 3 quarterback in college football. But like you're saying, it's become too mainstream of an upset. And so I feel like Bama will get the job done. And maybe even if Bryce Young doesn't play, they're Bama. They have the best players at every position. And I feel like although I want Tennessee to win, I think Hendon Hooker's pretty legit. I see Bama win this one.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that. Vegas always does know, and they have Bama winning by 7. So we'll see. And I kind of like this new little series we're doing on CO Sports. I mean, I think we can maybe make this a weekly thing for college football, or once in a while, maybe when it's a really good weekend like we have this weekend, because it would be interesting to follow our picks and see our records. But I think like 10 solid games here, kind of like College Game Day at ESPN, and we'll see how we all do.
I agree. I'm with that.
All right.
So the MLB playoffs are underway. Did we touch on the wildcard round at all?
We did our predictions. We haven't touched on it yet. My prediction didn't end up too well.
I balled out.
Yeah.
I got Cleveland right. I got Seattle right. I got the Padres right, but I did not get the Phillies beating the Cardinals. A lot of upsets. But yeah. So now Cleveland and New York playing. New York leads 1-0. Game got rained out in the Bronx tonight, so that game got postponed. Houston leads Seattle 2-0. Just heartbreaking. It could be 2-0 Seattle very easily right now. Seattle was up 2 in the ninth. They're up like 8-3 or something like that. Jordan Alvarez hit a walk-off 3-run bomb in the ninth. And then Jordan also hit a go-ahead home run that stood as the winning run in the 6th inning today. So Jordan Alvarez becoming the main factor in that series. Really heartbreaking for Seattle, but now they go back to T-Mobile Park to play some playoff baseball, which hasn't been said in a while. And Philly and Atlanta are tied. Philly won game 1, Atlanta wins game 2. I think Atlanta starts to pull away now. I see this game. I think they win in 4. And then San Diego actually got a win against LA. I think most people thought this was gonna be a sweep, but Manny Machado plays hero, gets I think 3 RBIs in a 5-3 win. And yeah, this series is gonna be interesting. I still think LA wins out though. I think they win in 4 as well.
Honestly, if I had to be frank with you, I think Padres are going to win this series. The Dodgers are just not that guy, plain and simple. The Padres are going to win this series. They looked really solid yesterday. They had a really solid game plan. They went in there and executed to perfection. They looked really good, and their pitching staff is that guy. Darvish of you is really, really solid. Joe Musgrove, are we not going to talk about the performance against the Mets and what a choke by the Mets? I knew that little trumpet song was going to end up being a whole meme in the playoffs, and it was going to end up biting them in the ass. It was dope and all in the regular season, but look what happened. 3 games in, boom, they're out of the playoffs. That amazing season choked all because that end of the season choke, losing that to the Braves. So what a choke by the Mets. Just an ultimate choke job. Unreal.
I saw somebody said that the first 100-win team ever not make the NLDS.
What a joke. But yeah, Joe Musgrove absolutely balled out. And they went out sad, accusing of cheating. Come on.
Fuck, bro. What are you doing?
Yeah, so
it did look sus though. His ear was like glistening.
But yeah, Joe Musgrove, great performance. Joe Musgrove, Darvish of you, and of course
Snell Blake.
Yeah, the really good pitching staff. I think it's better than the pitching staff when the Dodgers don't have Walker Buehler. It's gonna come down to whether Clayton Kershaw has a really good playoff performance.
Whoever the Dodgers throw out there just twirls a gem every time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of annoying.
And then Philly, St. Louis. Unfortunately, my St. Louis prediction didn't work out too well. I mean, if they end up closing that game 1 out, I think they win this. They win that wild card. But the game 2 is a joke. They got shut out. But yeah, Phillies are on a little bit hot streak. They lost today. But yeah, we will see. So if I had to go with my predictions, I'm gonna go with San Diego versus Atlanta and New York versus Houston, and I'm gonna go with Houston versus San Diego World Series. And I think Houston's gonna end up finding a way to get this done.
Slam Diego, man. Yeah, Houston looks really good. If it's not Jordan, it's someone else. Altuve, Bregman. Team's legit. Good starting pitching. I mean, Verlander had a bad game, let up 6 earned, and they still won. And then Framber Valdez went today, was amazing. And then they'll probably have like Luis Garcia or something like that tomorrow or in a few days. So, yeah. Or sorry, Lance McCullers will probably go. And then yeah, I think Seattle nabs 1 at home, but I think Houston takes 1 and they win it in 4.
Yeah, is this the year that Mattress Mac finally gets his bread up? Could be.
What did he bet on?
What?
What did Mattress Mac bet on?
Like 10 million on the Astros to win it all, to pay out 75 mil.
How is bro not bankrupt? He bets like 10 mil on everything and loses.
He does like promos, so it's like I don't even know how he does it, but he does it so like he doesn't actually lose any money.
Okay. Yeah, I think he makes 75 mil. I think they're really, really legit. If it's not the Dodgers, it's the Astros.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest, you can hit up Aiden Holmes, he can vouch that I said I thought it'd be the Mariners and the Phillies in the World Series. I mean, I feel like the Mariners are the perfect feel-good story for the playoffs. Just like J-Rod, they haven't been in it for a while. I'd love to see them then. And also, I mean, the Phillies have one of the best rosters on paper. I mean, some of those bats are insane. Like, I mean, the Phillies can really put it together, and I like the Phillies, and I could see the Braves maybe choking. And then San Diego, LA, like it's kind of a fraudulent divisional rivalry. Like the Padres are just like the irrelevant little brother, like who's just kind of there for the Giants and Dodgers. And I mean, the Dodgers will probably win that one. I like J-Ram, but the Yankees should probably. I don't know. I was talking to my math teacher, Mr. Ban. we both thought Cleveland would maybe squeak away with the first one and then just get swept. So that would be boring. But I got Phillies beating the Mariners in the World Series.
Hey man, it's
Yeah.
bold prediction.
So there we
Yeah.
have some great MLB predictions. Let's get into the outro.
We gotta go. Our time's about to end, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Will, for coming on. And yeah, we'll see you guys next episode. Peace.